Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is another episode of Ron's coverage. And today I want to speak about the latest headline pertaining to ICE that's all over the news media and all over social media as well, about the death of Renee Good, who was murdered at the hands of an ICE official. And it all resulted from Renee Good deciding to obstruct law enforcement, ICE, while they was conducting an investigation pertaining to the arrest of an illegal immigrant. Now, Renee Good is a tragedy that she was murdered by ICE, but she made a terrible decision by trying to make a political stance while law enforcement was conducting an investigation during a crime scene. Now, she was reportedly parked in a vehicle in the middle of the street trying to impede on the duties of ICE agents. Now, three ICE agents approached her vehicle to inquire why she was at the scene, because it didn't concern her or anyone that she knew. And Renee Good did not react. Did not react in a pleasant way, and she did not follow the instructions of law enforcement. So she makes an attempt to drive off in her vehicle, and during that process, she was shot and killed by the ICE agent, in self-defense, because she was attempting to run him over while she was trying to escape the crime scene. So everyone is all worked up about her death and everything. Yes, everyone has a right to be worked up about it and be in their feelings about it. However, it wasn't a conscious decision made on her part, because she should have never been there to begin with. And the law enforcement, a crime scene, while law enforcement is doing an investigation, is not the time or the place to make a political stance. So she should have never been there in the first place. So, in defense of the law enforcement official, he reacted in self-defense, rightfully from a legal perspective, because she was attempting to drive off while he was in front of the vehicle. So he just retaliated by firing his weapon. So in response to the shooting and Renee Good's death, there's been massive protests in Minnesota this week. And during the protests, two other people was impeding on the duties of law enforcement, and they with a shovel, attempting to physically assault an ICE agent with a shovel, which did not have a good turnout for those two protesters as well. And the news media depicts them as victims. So again, ladies and gentlemen, the a crime scene is not the time or the place to make a political stance and to try and attack, and making an attempt to attack law enforcement is not such a good decision either. So that should all tell us something. Why do these protesters feel emboldened to try to attack law enforcement? And law enforcement also pulled a woman out of her vehicle a day or two ago, saying that she was on her way going to the doctor. But there was another account by Fox News Media by Laura Ingram stating that she was also impeding on the duties of law enforcement as well. So a lot of these protesters is not making good decisions by trying to obstruct justice. The way, if you disagree with certain policies and procedures, you should take that up in the courtroom, not the crime scene. You take that up in the crime scene is going to lead to another crime scene and so on. So now, in response, the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry, has publicly condemned ICE, even though ICE agents are reacting in self-defense, and Tim Waltz as well. So I see what's happening here. The Democratic politicians are trying to galvanize voters for the midterm later on this year. And they're using this incident, the Renee Good incident, the Renee Good shooting, and the ICE protests as political leverage to garner support for the midterms later this year. And news media is cheering it on. And news media is displaying footage and displaying these stories so they can gain ratings. So the news media who run defense for the Democrats, the mainstream news media who run defense for the Democrats, by the way. So we should ask ourselves, people, is it really a smart decision to try to physically assault ICE, to physically assault agents, law enforcement officials who has a license to kill, who has a deadly weapon? Do y'all think it's a smart decision? Because I don't. But anyway, Trump chimed in on it as well. And of course, leftists and liberals aren't too fond of that. But of course, Donald Trump is going to defend law enforcement as well as the rest of his administration, including J.D. Vance. So I look at the news media as they encouraging these mass protests that's going to result in injuries, and deaths. And speaking of injuries, the ICE agent that nearly got ran over by Renee Good was suffered injured torso during the scene. So that's why Trump chimed in on it. So that's definitely self-defense from a legal perspective. From a moral perspective, do I believe it was morally right? No, I feel he should have maybe blew out the tires instead. But hey, You don't know what's going on in people's head and how people's going to react. Everyone reacts in a different way. So you can't expect a human being to react in a politically correct fashion every single time, especially when his life is at risk. But anyway, that's my take on it, folks. You like this video? Hit like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I will catch y'all in my next video. Peace.